Hello and welcome to this episode 3
Woo!
of the Just Discourse Podcast.
Lovely.
With your host, myself, Max Smith, and of course, Matt Delaharp.
I'm wearing a suit, but I'm fucking up the cable already. So
You're already stuck.
Okay, we're good. I'm fine.
Good
now.
lad.
I'm happy
You
now.
ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
How are you today, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good, mate. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Lovely. Long time no see.
Been a while.
I know.
Been a while.
Less than a week.
Exactly. Nearly a whole week. I bet it's killed you.
It's been very upsetting.
But yeah, it's been a very busy week in many respects.
Mm.
You know, we've got lots of things going on in the world. My life, your life.
Mm-hmm.
How's everything your side?
Yeah, doing good, mate. It's keeping busy. Counting days till I'm out of my current occupation and I can get teaching people how to lift weights for a living.
Yes. So you finally made the jump.
Yes, I'm out. Will be out of retail for a company that is not mine, and then working for myself,
Excellent.
which would be
Very
great.
good.
Yeah, real good, mate.
So you're going to PTs, eh?
Yes,
PT.
I'm going to be starting off working in a gym on the gym floor and
Excellent.
just building my expertise from there.
Nice one. Well, I wish you the best of luck, mate.
Thank you very much, sir.
You will smash it as always.
We shall see. Either way, it's going to be a good laugh.
Yes. But we've got a interesting pod today.
Mm.
So as you know, I like to make sure I've got various different subjects I want to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot been going on. So, I think we'll start with the gold price.
Go on, sir.
Gold is continuing to go up. Obviously, it's a massive hedge against inflation.
Mm.
There'll be more talks from the Bank of England to what's the word they use? Well, basically, print more money. Fiscal stimulus. They use. It sounds nice and it sounds very posh, and most people goes over their head. But
Mhm.
effectively, it means printing more money, which can only have one effect: inflation.
Mm.
So that's good for anybody who owns assets. But if you don't, then you could be left behind. So it's a good time, I believe, to make sure you're in the game, as always. Make sure you're diversified. We've got the dreaded recession looming, as it has been since
Forever.
COVID. But I think they'll do what they always do to try and avoid a massive recession. Again, that is, as I said, fiscal stimulus.
Mm.
So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But again, as we see, with gold prices have been skyrocketing over the last couple of weeks.
Mm.
House prices, I think, are actually coming down at the moment, which is positive for home buyers out there and investors alike. But I think obviously that has a lot to do with the ever increasing interest rates. They increased those, I think it was about 10 days ago now.
Mm.
So the Bank of England base rates increased by another 0.5%, which is, good for people with low interest mortgages. But those getting into the market can be a bit more difficult, especially when the house prices still are at the levels they are.
Mm.
But with a bit of luck, the constant increasing in the interest rates can usually only have one effect on the house prices. Sellers have basically just got to swallow it, and if they want to sell, they've got to reduce their price,
Mm-hmm.
which hopefully means we're coming into another buyer's market. But we'll see.
From your perspective, as someone who's has that more experience in it than mine, what's the benefit of being a buyer in this market as opposed to a renter?
Well, so the benefit of buying in this market, there are very few, to be honest. If you're a first-time buyer, a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how you want to look at it. I've sort of grown up in the era of very low interest rates. So interest rates being at sort of 5, 6, 7% are, massively high compared to what my experience has always shown me. But if you can get in at this level with a comfortable deposit, and you can comfortably make the payments, the benefit for, say, buyers or first-time buyers and home buyers is that when the interest rates inevitably do come down, because it's unlikely that they will. I think they will keep going up. I think we won't. I think we will get close to touching double digits. Whether we do actually get over that 10% mark, I don't know. It's nothing I've ever experienced, so I can only talk from my side of things. But I think it is possible that we'll get very close to it. But the benefit is if you get a 5-year fixed at this level, and in the next couple of years it comes down, then effectively when you remortgage, you'll be paying less interest on your mortgage, which can kind of feel like a saving, or it means you can pay off your mortgage a bit quicker. I've always been of the mindset of whatever it is, pay as much off your mortgage as you can. Now, obviously, if you're on a 2% or 3% fixed, then your mortgage rates are quite low. So it's not going to have as substantial effect paying off the mortgage debt. However, if we're at 7, 8, 9%, and you can pay off 50, 100, 200 pounds, whatever it is, obviously it's going to massively reduce your either term that you have the mortgage, or it will slowly start knocking off the monthly interest, because you can do one or two things. You can either pay extra money off and effectively take it off the length of your mortgage, or you can reduce your monthly payment. Now, I've always toyed with this idea. What the best way to do it is because obviously if you keep the term the same length, and then you pay bits off, then of course your monthly repayment is going to be less, which effectively means every month you've got more that you can pay off. So that's it's a good way of doing it. But if you pay off the end of the term, then of course effectively you're still paying the same amount every month, which means you can budget exactly the same every month. Means you can just automate it and you haven't got to think too much. And then of course the length of the mortgage reduces, which is, again, you can either way you sort of spin it, it works. But if you can pay off extra, then it's got to be done, like with every loan. If you don't, all you're doing is paying money you don't really need to the banks, which we all love doing. Love keeping them in business. However, we need them, otherwise we wouldn't be able to get houses. So.
Yeah, true. Well, it'd just be building societies then, wouldn't it? Yeah.
But then which are probably a better thing. I can imagine they had a lot more of those back in the day, but now we've just got lots of big banks, haven't we, that sort of control the majority of what we do and spend.
Yeah, because is Nationwide the only one that's left for us as an actual building society?
That I know of. I'm sure there's a couple of others.
Yeah, but just the smaller ones.
I'm not sure if Halifax have like a spin-off building society type thing. There are a couple of others, but none that I can sort of put my mind to at the moment. But in terms of renters, now it's difficult in the renters market at the moment, because of course with all the new tax laws they've brought in for landlords, it's as with all these things. Do you know what I mean? They bring in these new laws to help renters, and we've discussed many times that actually all it really ends up doing is causing more problems for the renters. So again, of course, because they brought all these new tax laws in, it's much less profitable for landlords to own and provide good properties for their tenants. So one or two things are happening. There are a lot more rundown properties coming available, which gives tenants less opportunity to get into a nice property, and they're still paying high rents for that, or because there is less supply on the market, because a lot of the landlords have sold the thought, now I'm not messing around with these taxes anymore, I'm going to get out of the market. Of course, for the people that can't afford to buy, they've got less supply, still massively increased demand, simple supply and demand factors. The rental increase, the prices of rents have shot up.
As a response to having greater taxes on the landlords, there's less incentive to continue or to perpetuate their portfolio, as it were.
Exactly. So there's less incentives for the landlords to be landlords themselves, which means there's less available rental properties out there, because they're either selling to buyers or selling to, the big companies, which again, they're coming in, renovating them, and then renting them out because they can afford to for top whack. And unfortunately, it's as always, when big government tend to get involved with things, they make it a lot more difficult for everyone else. Because not only did they screw over the landlords in that respect, they've had a knock-on effect of, screwing the tenants.
Because I remember when I left property, they were on the verge of, it was literally a few months before they got rid of agency fees.
Yeah.
Which all the agents did, which all the estate agents did, was just put that on the landlord.
Flip onto landlords.
And then the landlord in response would put it on the tenants.
Yeah, so, from what you're saying, that they put the agency fees were banned for the tenants to pay.
Which, on the face of it, was very good, because you could have an agency fee depending on the company, which could have been 20 quid to move someone in, or depending on other businesses that you and I may not have worked for, it was 130 quid.
Yeah, so it's quite a big expense, but of course they stopped that, which for the lettings firms, obviously they lost a massive proportion of their income. So they had the option to either stay in business and put it onto the landlords, or go out of business. And obviously they put it straight onto the landlords. Now the landlords again has one of two options: he either can't afford it anymore, sells out, and moves on to an investment that he may have had for 5, 10, 15, 30 years, or he puts it onto the tenant's rent. It was it was always gonna happen. So I'm not sure what the real thought process was behind it, or who came up with the bright idea. Again, we won't go too far into politics because we know nothing about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I deliberately stay out of it for as much as I can. But the well, I think it's to your question about what thought went into it. Probably wasn't very much. It's like a lot of what happens with these stupid headlines is it's a singular headline, sounds really punchy, great. All you need to know in that thing, nothing else. Don't think about it any further. Don't think about long term.
Sounds like a brilliant
possible
idea.
areas. Brilliant idea. That's it. Done. Great. Sold. Oh, but this happened. Yeah, don't worry about that. I'm not part of it anymore. Don't worry about it.
We'll push it through.
Yeah, doesn't matter. There's no thought about the consequences afterwards besides the initial sort of line for it. And
again, the only people it really affected are the small landlords. The people that maybe have one or two rental properties. Their mum's passed away or something like that, and they've instead of selling the property, they've rented it out. And the tenants themselves. So small landlords and the smaller dwellings and family homes were most affected by it.
To your point about, you said there that the ban coming into place, that a lot of lettings agencies would go out of business because of that lack of that income. Would it be a case that they would go out of business because of that, or they were just used to that level of income and they wanted to retain that?
Yeah, maybe it was slightly extreme to say they would go out of business. However, if you're a lettings company and you're doing 50 lettings a month, which is fairly average, for the sort of medium to small firms, then say that's 50 to 100 quid, but you're losing easily £5,000 a month, and that could easily be two people's wages, two full-time member staff's wages. And if you've lost that income, then what are you going to do? You can't just, if you let your letting agents go, then you're not going to turn over the rentals in order to get that income back in. So they had to make some difficult decisions, I guess. Now, luckily for me, during that process, I was still in the sales side of things, so I didn't really see the effect come into play. I mean, and you said you were just leaving as that was coming in.
Literally like 2 months beforehand, yeah.
So we don't really have any direct first-hand experience of what happened, other than being, a landlord, is that, I basically had to take the brunt of that and find other avenues to make sure that the money was coming in and all the bills were paid, etc. And again, the only thing you can do is put the price up, which you don't want to do. But at the end of the day, if you're providing a service, everything's got to be paid for, isn't it? Or sell up, and then again we have the problem with the supply and demand is when there's still massively high demand.
Yep.
We've got to be careful how I say the increasing population, because there are a lot of studies to say these days that we're not actually reproducing at the rate we need to.
No, but there's more and more people that are, well, like with every case, is even if that is the case, that's still only going to take effect in a generation's time. So people can say that, but it's not going to happen, or it's not going to affect us right now.
And I guess, well, in our generation right now, which is a fact, is there are less people. In our parents' generation, it was quite common, and especially the generation before, it's quite common. You meet someone at between 18, 25, you get married, and you're together. You buy your first house together, etc., etc. Don't really tend to rent. They could just afford to go straight in and buy. Whereas of our generation, it's quite often you have two separate people renting separately. So again, you've got that increased demand there where they're not necessarily together. I think the average marriage rate in the UK is 31 these days, as compared to 25 years ago, which I think was 23. So again, that's a massive difference.
So my folks got married at 30 and 31. That's very interesting.
So bang on
the age now. Yeah,
average,
very interesting.
But the same as I don't think my parents got married till they were. So me and my brother were 3 and 4. So they would have been 32, 32, maybe 33. So again, they were a bit later to the game, but again, the average currently is 31, which is, well, it's not the norm these days, is it, really, to get married?
No, and it's almost like when you see people who are less than 30 getting married, you're like, it's not less than 30, less than 25. You're like, what? Like 25, like a few of my mates are married or getting married at 25 when they were 25 or 28. I'm like, yeah, cool, makes sense. Or they've been in their relationship long enough. Then I've got other mates who've been together for 10 years, 11 years. Yeah. And they're not married yet.
Still not married.
And you're like, fine.
Well, I did have a conversation with one of my friends the other day, Will Brazil. We'll get him onto the pod because he'll be all over it. But he was saying, he was one of his friends, they've been married for like 5 or 6 years. And of course, they're our age, and it's weird. That's kind of weird. It's a bit strange because they only got married at like 23, 24. Which it's not weird, it's actually pretty normal. But compared to what we're used to, it's like, Jesus. What do you think about myself at 23, 24? Oh, I was a mess. See, I think that's fascinating because knowing what I know now about how humans' prefrontal cortex doesn't fully finish developing until you're about 25, 26. Is that for females as well? Everybody. Yeah, 25, 26. This locks in, 25, 26. So that's for anyone to do anything before then is fascinating because you're not fully developed yet. Yeah. You're still a child. In your thought process. Yeah. So obviously physically you're probably not going to change unless you hit the gym a lot. But yeah, your thinking is still got a few more years of developing left, which is very interesting. Especially when you see people with even with children, obviously teenage pregnancy, but then equally again with people who are mums before they hit 20, or even people who are mums before they hit 25. Very interesting. Not that I know what that is, because I can't comprehend being a mum or being a mum that age, but it is interesting just to observe it and just see what happens. Yeah, well, and I don't know if with the generation that we're in because of that, but we were discussing the other day now, one massive, and I'm 100% an advocate for ladies in the workforce and stuff like that, but one thing that was completely missed in the feminist push for freedom, shall we say, is the effect that it had in the workplace was immediately there was double the workforce, which means there was twice as much choice. Going back to the supply and demand, there was an oversupply of workers, which meant, they had to accept effectively lower pay. Not saying women had to accept lower pay. Everybody across the board were fighting for the same positions. Interesting. So therefore, there was companies that had basically twice as many people to choose from, which means they could negotiate harder on what they could pay them effectively, because there was more people fighting for the bread.
Mm-hmm.
So although it was, a massively positive thing in some respects for women's liberation,
Yes.
etc.,
Absolutely.
it had an enormous effect on inflation, because you had twice as many people earning. So it means they were, although the wages not immediately would have been less, but they would have, for that reason, not increased at the same rate, because you had a massive jump straight away with two people earning good wages in the family. Whereas, back in our grandparents' day, they could have one breadwinner that would pay for the home, car, holidays, everything from one breadwinner. Now these days, you can quite often have two well-paid, medium-class breadwinners.
Medium class.
Yeah.
And middle class.
Middle class. That's what I meant.
Average.
Yeah. Just the medium. Just average. But middle class.
Yeah.
Workforce that's still struggling to pay the mortgage, pay for their cars, holidays, etc., etc. It's a lot more difficult because of the increased supply in the workforce.
So my history of these events is rubbish. When did this exactly happen for? Was it the 60s, the 50s?
So it was more. I think they had a big push at the beginning of the 60s, but I think the main push was to the end of the sort of the middle to the end of the 60s.
Okay.
So 66, 67.
Got ya. Cool.
You had a lot more women entering the workforce after the war.
Yep.
And they had the the baby boomers between.
That's how the people born in the 50s.
That's it, between 50s and the 60s.
Yep.
So our parents would have. How old are your parents?
64 and born 64 and 66.
Exactly. So my parents both.
No, 64, 65. My bad.
They would have like coming to the tail end of the boomers. Well, obviously they were massively reproducing because of the loss in life during the war. But then, of course, as you said, you had all the women's liberation, which massively pushed for more people in the workforce, which was which was great for, again, various different things. It's not all negative. It was just more the massive inflation that it caused, which now we're coming to the brunt of it when the population isn't increasing as much. But of course, for that, you had massive booms in commerce, air travel, various different things. Holidays. Everybody was sort of, there's more people going on holiday and stuff like that outside of the country. Probably helped primarily with the technological advances in in planes and boats and all that type of stuff. It became more tourism all over the place. And for that reason, it helped progress commerce in various, various ways, because you could transport goods quicker and easier. But then, of course, that has another effect on the consumerism side of things as well. And of course, because you've got two breadwinners, women being predominantly, I think they make 70% of all purchase decisions in the household. They, of course, were able to go and buy a lot more.
Yeah, of course.
Make more decisions.
Well, it's obviously not within the household. It's the same statistic, but applied to the high street. It's that females shop more than men do. They buy more than men do, which is interesting. That's interesting as well. When you're talking about, so the sheer, you're coming from the back end of World War II. World War II, fighting fit men have gone off to war. So all that left are the men who are unfit to fight, old, young, and then the women. So the women, by necessity, a vast majority of them had to then go into the factories to then make all the boots and the armour and the weapons and the bullets and everything. So they by necessity had to be there. And then, obviously, the war's over. They're not just going to pack up and go home again.
Exactly.
So it's going to be, or no, they did, because they had no position to.
Yeah. That was, I
that
assume
was part
that
of
was
it.
Ultimately the catalyst for it.
Yeah, because they were like, hey, we're here now.
Yeah.
And
and they showed their competence.
Yeah, well, obviously, we were like, look, if you didn't have the bullets that we were sending you, you wouldn't be able to fight for us, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which, in a way, is kind of a beautiful unity, because it took men and women working together to win.
Yeah.
Obviously, the men doing the fighting as right and proper, because I don't want, if I was alive back there, I don't want my sisters and my mum going to fight. I'd rather me and my dad went.
No, of course. No. And I was watching a podcast the other day, Just Purdy Things, and she's brilliant, to be fair. She gets, quite an eclectic group of people on, and she quite cleverly pushes a lot of these like ultra feminists down the route of, they want to make all their own decisions and blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final question she asks is, so if conscription came in, would you want to keep all your rights as free women that can do whatever you want, or would you want to go to the army? And you can see they're all thinking, like 9 out of 10 of them are thinking, you know what, I'll probably just stay at home. Do you know what I mean?
Fuck yeah.
Which,
yeah, I support that.
why not?
100%, I support that.
And you think it's a very difficult conversation, isn't it, to have on this? And I think in most ways, women fighting for equality is actually a terrible detriment to them, because I don't know about yourself, but women are the vessels that bring life into this world.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a man, I can never do that. No matter what, I can't do that. And I think in many, if not, I don't want to say all because that's too general, but in most ways, women are far better than men. So them fighting for equality is effectively a race to the bottom for them. Do you know what I mean? They, we go, prior to the women being in the workforce, it was, most of the labour was hard grind. Do you know what I mean? It was stuff you didn't want your sister or your wife to be doing, but we went out and did it just because we wanted to look after them and protect them, etc. And then now the obviously over the past sort of 60 years, there's been that big push to get them into the workforce. And you think, this is from my own, personal side of things, and I think, there are various different jobs which are probably extremely enjoyable, but I'm sure there are quite a lot of jobs where they're probably thinking, is it really worth it? Would it have been better to stay at home and look after the family? And again, I'm only ever going to come from a male's perspective on this because it's the only experience I've ever had. But it's it's an interesting sort of concept to think about and discuss.
Well, to your point, it's part of a Joe Rogan bit. We're just like, women's equality. He went, right, ladies, you make all the people. And you want to do everything else now. You fucking greedy bitches.
Give us something to do. Like, come on.
But it's such a good bit because the build up to it, he lists all of these like female inventors. Yeah. Like the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi was created by a woman.
Okay.
Who was she was a molecular biologist and a mechanical engineer, like super overqualified, but also like a smoke show. So she did she got qualified, became like a model, and then was like, "Now I'm going back to science." And then she just created like everything that we enjoy today. And you're like, "Fucking fair play."
Yeah, she's done well.
She did really well. And her like descendant now is like a stand-up comedian, like as part of that community, which is fucking awesome. But it's like, yeah, you want to be the people that get pregnant, spend 9 months carrying another human, then go spend an hour to 2 days in labour to then expel this person from your body, to then have to care about this person because there's some insane cocktail hormones that hit you, so that it's physically painful to be away from this other human,
because you're designed to protect them,
and it is literally your flesh somewhere else, so it's painful to not be able to hold them, which I like my mum was explaining to me, like it physically hurt her when she would hear us cry. Like it caused her actual pain, which is nuts, which makes sense because it's like it's a physical flesh over there. Like by itself. It's like I imagine having your arm over there by itself.
Yeah,
You're like, what the fuck is going on?
Is it flapping around over there?
Literally. And then also, there's a certain percentage of women, once you give them birth, you then suffer from postnatal depression, which will last for a couple of years. And then you can't do shit from that. You then want everything else that then men want to do, or not even what men want to do, that men do. Men have to do. Because, let's face it, men are expendable as fuck.
That's why we go to war.
Yeah, men are easy. Men are you can go find one anywhere. It's not hard work. Whereas, a woman is a cherished thing and is a precious thing because she carries the ability to look after humans. And you want to take all of this on us. You want to take this all upon yourselves as well. You want to fight for the fact that you want to get up at 5 a.m. and you want to go. I was talking to my dad because I came back from Waterloo the other day, and it took me like 2.5 hours to get home. And I was like, "You did this every day, 2.5 hours each way?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "How did you do that for 2 decades?" He's like, "I have no idea."
Just had to.
And he was like, "I just did it because I had to do it for the family." And I was like, I just gave him a hug. I was like, "Thank you," because I did it once, and this was fucking horrible. Yeah. So going back to women, it's like, you want to do that as well?
That's what I mean.
I was like, you don't need to.
Yeah, I'm all for it if you want to do it.
Yeah, but just
thinking,
be aware.
Why?
Be aware of what you're doing to yourselves,
because you're fighting for, if it's actually going to be a benefit.
Well, there's the statistic I heard today was 50% of women are childless before the age of 31, and then after that, 50% of those will never have kids, and almost all of them will regret it.
Well, does that go back to
fuck?
Yeah. And does that go back to our point that we mentioned about how we're not reproducing enough to provide for the next generation? Is it because there are more women in the workforce concerned about their careers rather than concerned about having kids?
Which, on a case-by-case basis, do whatever the hell you want, but
there is a certain amount of social responsibility that
there absolutely
when we get
is
into that realm, though, isn't it? Is that, well, especially when it comes even to like paying taxes. Now, the baby boomers, they're obviously the largest. They're the largest generation. I need to just double check the facts
of numbers.
But I think so.
They're probably cutting off now.
So I think the reproduction rate is sort of 1.8.
Oh, the replenishment rate.
Replenishment rate is 1.8, which is obviously less than, it takes obviously 2 people to, have a baby.
Yeah, so it should be at least 2.
Yes, well, so the minimum should be 3, really.
Yeah.
To keep the growth.
You and I came from a 3-sibling household.
4 for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we'll come back to that, Carol.
So again, I'm an
there you go.
for large families.
Yeah,
but that's
same.
Obviously because I've been brought up in
3 for me and my siblings, 5 on my dad's side, 4 on my mum's side. Yeah,
so
big families.
Big old family.
Yeah.
And there are various different benefits to that, which we'll sort of circle back on. But again, for just simple things like paying taxes to be able to provide people's pensions, say our parents are going to come into pension age soon, but they're going to have potentially 20 years where they're going to need the younger generation to be in the workforce, paying taxes to pay their pension. Where if we're not replenishing the birth rate at minimum, as you said, the same or more, so 2 or more, then how are we going to pay, ever generate enough taxable income to pay for the pensions that are required for the older generation? Because again, the less people you have paying taxes, the more people you're going to need to be looking after the pension age people that aren't getting the tax funded pension, which they paid into their whole lives, which means there's less people in the workforce, and it has a terrible knock-on effect. Really, you want exponential growth of the birth rate, so you never have to come up or face that issue, which is something I've been thinking about a lot recently. And I think, well, I personally myself want to have as many children as possible. Whether my partner at the time wants that is a different story.
And then if your bank account will manage it as well.
And the bank account, yeah. But I think, especially if you're talking to my father about it, once I'm quite a highly motivated person anyway, and I'm motivated for myself and my current family. But I think once you have kids, he was saying that motivation like 10x's, because it's like, well, you've got a little thing, a little child that you've produced that no one else in the world is going to look after. You are the sole, I don't want to say proprietor because that's the wrong word, but you're between you and your partner, you're the only ones that are going to love and care for them and look after them as best they could possibly be compared to anybody else. So it forces you to level up. So you you get to that level where you're just in the mindset, which is probably what your father did when he was doing those trips all the time. He's like, my well-being is irrelevant now. It's just the well-being of my wife and my children. Because I need to ensure that I provide and protect them. And I don't know if that's because you have duality and everything, and I don't know if that's like more of a male aspect.
What do you mean?
Because women tend to be more caring and nurturing, whereas men tend to be more protective providers. If you know what I mean, like which is not. These are just trying to make sure I word it so we don't offend anyone. But do you know what I mean?
Okay, first of all, we are. No one's listening.
Yeah,
so
that's important as well. We're just talking to ourselves.
Yeah, and also, please be offended. Please.
Crack on.
Go on.
But I mean, so men tend to be, as I say, the ones that will get up in the mornings, will fight through whatever they have to look after, protect, and provide for their family. Whereas the women are the ones that are gonna nurture them best. I've said it with partners and stuff like that before. If we were to have a children, I'll be totally honest. You are clearly gonna nurture them sort of better than I. I've come from a loving family, so I know how to treat people and look after children, etc., etc. But there's always going to be that element that, as a father, probably predominantly with boys, is you're going to be a bit harder because look, you need to grow up to be a strong, willing individual who's also going to protect and provide not only for your family, your immediate family, the rest of your family and your community as a whole. And I don't know if that comes back to, when we used to be in tribes. I think the average tribe was sort of like 100 to 150 people, wasn't it? So effectively, you knew everybody in the tribe, like a town or a community or stuff like that. That everybody sort of looks after each other and has their own role. And I've always felt that you've got to look after, protect, provide, and do something that's going to better your community and your family. And if you don't, then it's sort of like you're just wasting your time.
Well, there's the collectivist mentality that we as a Western civilization have stepped away from. Everything's very individualistic. Everything's very selfish and self-centered, and which is, it's exemplified by our consumerist society, where it's like the new iPhone, the new this, new that, the you, go on this holiday with you, go do this, get this job, do that, which is applied at everyone. So it's all about me. You've got these Tinder profiles when online dating is pushed in everyone's faces. You've got Instagram and everyone's pushed on everyone's faces to be like, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's an it's an exaggerated and encouraged narcissism.
Yes.
That we have is that people are told or encouraged to make everything about themselves. It's like you see with these fuckers who even get kids now and they have fucking pictures of their babies. It's like that's wrong. That's so wrong on so many levels.
Thought that's a real sticky wicket.
That's a red flag. If someone's taking pictures of their kids or even with their kids and put it on social media, it's like that kid can't fucking consent.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's weird. And it's also being there like, hey, sexual offenders. Yeah. Here's my baby.
It's an advertisement, isn't it, for the the people you don't want anywhere near your children.
Yeah. You're basically saying, look, I've got a vulnerable human. Have at it. And you're like, what's wrong with you? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Which is just it's just bizarre. But it's bizarre because it's put part of the feminist movement is to give complete freedom to women. Again, brilliant.
In some respects,
I think the principle of it is brilliant. How it's been implemented has been fucked up.
but it's like everything. If everybody has complete freedom,
Yeah.
now I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of action, almost indefinitely. But there are certain points. Do you know what I mean? Because if someone wants to go and kill someone, well, technically that is his freedom.
Yes.
But that's obviously immoral.
That's the detriment to our society.
And it would be a detriment to the notion of what freedom is, because effectively you're taking away someone else's freedom.
And that is the freedom of life. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's...
It's like a lucky dip here. I don't know what I'm getting.
So you've got to be very careful with, there's obviously fine lines, and people who can interpret it in different ways, and that's a lot to do, like now as a man, a male, all this free the nipple thing, it was great for a point when I was thinking, oh look, these ladies have got their tits out, this is brilliant, but then I stopped and thought, and I was like, is that if it was a kid walking past, is that appropriate for that child to see?
A question. It's a good question.
Do you know what I mean? And same thing. Like, if a bloke was walking down the street naked, well, that's his freedom to do that. But is that right?
No.
Exactly. For
no
a
way.
child to see, like that's
anyone
odd.
being naked, that's not right.
Yeah. And it's. And I get the whole free nipple thing. It's like, yeah, we can do whatever we want with our bodies, blah, blah, blah. But it comes a point, do you know what I mean? Where you think, well, I get your personal right to freedom, but then you've also got a societal responsibility, as you say, to your community to act in a manner that, one, you're not going to offend anyone.
Yeah.
And, be inappropriate towards them.
I could be wrong on this.
Go on.
But I think Free the Nipple started off as a joke on 4chan, because they did what did they do? They did free bleeding. 4chan. Do you know what that was?
I know what 4chan is. Yeah.
Do you know what free bleeding was?
No, that sounds
horrific. It sounds exactly what you think it is. As a joke, 4chan created this feminist profile and post saying, we will not be, oppressed by showing the fact that we have to hide the fact we're menstruating. We're not going to wear sanitary products and prove that we're, bleeding because, we're women and we're proud of that, as a joke. And then there were massive, protest is the wrong word, but there were massive, marching crowds of women doing that exact thing. And 4chan were like, oh, you idiots, this was a joke. You've now made yourselves look really stupid. It's the same. 4chan did that. They did the what was it? No shaving armpits and no shaving just in general as well. Did that as well. Fantastic. So I have a feeling that the free the nipple is the same thing. Well,
I'm sure the one about the armpits and stuff like that probably had an effect on the reducing population. You know what I mean? Come on, that's fine. Again, if you want to do that, then
look, the women that I have been acquainted with over the years, all prefer to be hairless.
Yeah.
Or minimal hair, especially armpits. They don't want any armpit hair.
But to me, that's
well, they don't want any armpit hair. They don't want any leg hair at all. They don't want it. Yeah, because I prefer to be smooth. I like it. I feel better this way. I don't want hair. And you're like, cool.
Yeah, and it's attractive to
exactly
the opposite sex.
Yeah, because the smoothness and the hairlessness is the exact dichotomy to what a man is, which is the coarseness, the roughness, the hairy. It's completely the opposite. It's good. It's the opposite is the balancing act. It's great.
Yeah.
Obviously,
the yin and the yang.
Yeah, obviously you might miss a few days, but who cares? It's fine. It's all good.
But again, that would be like me.
Unless you
trying to attract trying to attract females by being a fat fucking slob.
Well, there's a woman for that.
I'm sure there's women out there.
There's an attraction for everything, buddy. Someone's into everything. There's I was going to say if you were going to be hairless, I said unless you were going to become an Olympic swimmer, then don't be hairless. Yeah, because you streamline like a seal.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
no drag.
Yeah, that's because it's
cyclists do it as well, don't they?
It makes sense actually with cyclists. Yeah. Or you get some people who just can't grow body hair.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
It is interesting, yeah.
Like Matt Lucas.
Matt Lucas can't grow body hair?
I don't think so. Hasn't he got like alopecia?
Yeah. I think that's a little bit different. But you got like people who can't grow a beard. Because you're like, come on.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Depends what age, really. Like, if you're like this took me years to get.
Well, to be fair, I couldn't really grow a beard till I was 23, 24.
Yeah, like a proper one 3 years ago. Yeah, 24. Yeah.
But I probably couldn't grow like a big old Jesus beard. I don't think that would
I reckon I could. It would just be a nightmare.
to maintain and look after.
Yeah, well, I think my hair, I get hairs, they start here.
Oh, do they? Yeah. Well, see, my barber has recently started like trimming up here.
Oh, yeah, and you're like, what are you doing?
And then going down on what you're doing, and now I've noticed that I am now starting to get hairs up here.
I've had these for years. They're just kind of really fine. Yeah. They come through. You get those really weird, like, soft ones that they're just like, they're like new. Yeah, so whereas like you got like here, I've got one that's literally like wire.
Yeah, it's like thick.
Yeah, and you're like, fucking, I could fucking solder that into something. It's like electrical wire. It's just like, ugh.
Brilliant.
Humans are fascinating, aren't they?
They're strange little creatures.
We all are bizarre, upright apes.
I mean, going back to the, you know, we've diverted quite a lot from properties into free the nipple, haven't we? I think we've done pretty well there.
Yeah, that's good, mate. It's a natural segue.
Natural tangent.
Yeah.
But we love it.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking the other day about masochism, and in a way, you know what I mean.
I'm not sure. Explain. It sounds like an interesting word.
So masochism is part of the BDSM. So BDSM,
I thought it was something to do with that.
Yeah. So BDSM stands for bondage, domination, sadism, masochism, and the masochism part of it is the
humiliation.
No. That's probably domination. The masochism part of it is enjoying your own pain.
Okay.
And
go for it.
Oh my god.
That's a strange one. I've never understood that concept.
On the face of it, it sounds bizarre, but
you've obviously given it a go and you like it.
No, not sexually, but bear with me, okay?
I just like giving myself pain.
So you got sadism part of it, which is where you enjoy inflicting pain on others. The masochism part of it is when you enjoy someone inflicting pain on you, or just suffering pain. You're enjoying the suffering. Which on the face of it, you're like, that's kind of fucked up.
I think I see where you're going with this, but carry on.
There are many aspects in life that we willingly are masochistic on.
When you're training.
Training is one.
Yeah. That's it. Instantly I went there and I thought, hang on.
That's masochism.
I thought this was a very strange concept when you first mentioned it, and I thought, hang on.
Yeah.
When I'm training, I actually enjoy putting myself through that pain.
Yeah.
Because I know the positives that you're going to get from the end of it.
Which arguably maybe is not masochism because it ends in a good result. But then sexually, it could end in a good result.
Exactly. You carry on. I'm going to get the definition up so we can confirm.
Because the thing I was thinking about as well was I was walking past a McDonald's and it was just the queue coming out the door was crazy. Now, don't get me wrong.
Enormous people.
Don't get me wrong. I love a good McDonald's, but I would never queue for it. Like if I walk past McDonald's, like I could go for one, and it's busy, I keep on going because I'm not interested in that because it's not worth waiting on. But I was thinking there's a lot of things that we do like this, for example, is masochistic.
Right, so the definition, the dictionary definition actually says deriving sexual gratification from one's own pain or humiliation.
Okay,
so
it's
maybe
masochism is a wrong word then.
Yeah. In general, enjoying an activity that happens to be painful or tenuous. It seems to take masochistic delight in confronting uncomfortable truths.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. No, that's something else. That's quite revelatory. Both of those are quite revelatory because if you were to face something that's really uncomfortable, but it's the truth, but that's important. That's hard, but that's a really important thing to face.
Well, it does say in brackets masochistic sexual fantasies. So if you have to put sexual after it, then surely they're not the two aren't linked.
They're not mutually exclusive. Yes, you can have it by itself. Yeah. I think that's because that's how I understand it.
Yeah.
But there must be so many things that we do like that. Like I've noticed that a relative of mine, the majority of what they talk about is the new series they've watched.
On TV.
Yeah. When I'm there, like...
My favourite thing to do.
I'm like, this is such... this is... Because this is so boring to have this conversation
exactly,
again.
Yeah.
Because you've seen... Since I've last seen you, which has been maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, you've seen like 4 new shows.
Mm.
I was like... The most recent TV show I saw was Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
And I stopped at season 2 to give you a perspective of how long ago it was that I watched that. And I was like, granted, they showed me one, which was the SAS Rogue One. I was like, that's fucking good.
Yeah.
But like beyond that, I'm there like, they can't all be this good.
I must admit,
crazy.
I did watch Peaky Blinders.
So, yeah.
I did watch that. That was good. But as you said, I've watched the SAS one, which is good.
That's really good.
And I think from our perspective, that probably our enjoyment out of it is probably...
Oh, that's warfare. And they don't give a fuck.
Yeah. But also thinking like, I keep, we watch those things and we're like, I could do that. I could do that. How are they struggling so much? Like,
yeah. Hang on, did you say Who Dares Wins? Did you watch, or was it Rogue Heroes?
I didn't watch Rogue Heroes.
Rogue Heroes.
I'm doing Who Dares Wins.
No, Rogue Heroes, mate.
What's that?
It's about how the SS...
Is it fictional?
No, it's real.
It's
real. It's how they were formed
Fictional.
in World War II.
Okay, yes.
That's why they were formed, because they were basically... It's about the British soldiers that were in Egypt, and Churchill was like, look, Germany and Italy are completely kicking the shit out of us. They're going to take the Suez Canal. I don't care what you do. Here's like a blank check. Do what you got to do. And these lunatic lieutenants, like these 3 absolute crazy people, like people who would like they would like just jump out of airplanes with like parachute and shit like that, like into the desert,
Lands.
or they would like beat the crap out of military police officers and stuff like that. And you're like, cool, just crackheads. But they basically created it and just found the craziest,
good ones.
Really good. They found the craziest people they could and went, right, we're gonna do it, and they did it. They just tore the Germans apart. It was amazing. It's really good. But
that sounds actually far more interesting than Who Dares Wins.
Oh, it's way better.
What's it called?
SAS Rogue Heroes.
I'm gonna get that one on the list.
But I don't often talk about TV shows. But for someone that's the primary source of entertainment for them, bar all those stupid game shows that they have on TV. I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I was just thinking, it's just a form of, I don't know, maybe it's just a different perspective, it's a different priority on what people value and everything. But I was like, I can't think of anything worse than just spending all evening watching TV shows. Because I've done that. I've done that in my sedated existence in the past.
Exactly what it is. It's sedation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's that, and a little bit of wine with some sulfides and sugar in it. The excess push of carbohydrates and sugar on people. It makes you like, you get a nice little spike and then crash like shit, so you can't do anything afterwards. Yeah. He says drinking a Monster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my favourite thing to do.
I've already worked out today, so fuck you.
My favourite hypocritical thing to do.
Yeah, I've already worked out, I don't care. And much like you, I rarely stop working, so.
I just get bored though, don't you?
Yeah, I always need projects, whatever it is.
I find, we had a conversation about it previously, if I don't have a purpose, and I mean like a direct purpose that involves either making money or improving my life in some way, I think it's all comes down to the yin and yang factor. There is no in between. Do you know what I mean? It's either I'm here improving, doing what I need to do to make my life better, or I'm swinging the other way. It's like, if I haven't got that project to work on, I'm drinking. I'm doing shit I shouldn't be doing that's only going to make my progression and my movement towards those goals I'm trying to achieve further away. And I can't remember who said it, but I think it may have even been Jordan Peterson or someone else, but it was basically like, there's no stagnation. So if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards.
Yeah.
There's no
maintenance.
Yeah, there's no maintenance in the middle. So and when I first heard that, it was life changing.
Yeah.
And you don't immediately think. First, you think, oh no, that's bollocks. Like, I can have a rest day and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But then when you push so far forward and you achieve so many things, or, so a level of things in terms of your goals and stuff like that, you notice it. You start thinking, well, I'm stagnant now and I'm not moving. Hang on, I'm actually going backwards. In simple terms of like maths, as soon as I slow down or stop using mental arithmetic, it becomes so much harder to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, it sounds ridiculous, but when I'm doing it every day, all day, absolutely fine. You think, oh, this is easy, normal routine. And then you go on holiday or something for a week or 2 weeks, which I haven't done for a very long time. But even, having a long weekend off when you stop doing it, you come back on Monday and you're thinking, this is a little bit harder than, it should be. Why is it so much more difficult? Probably the alcohol consumed in between. Which, again, if you're not going forward, you're going backwards type thing. Even in the relaxed state.
There is a argument, though, that improvement is not a linear trajectory. It's like a
spiral.
Not even just a spiral. It's like you go 3 forward, one back, 3 forward, 1 back, 3 forward, 1 back. So like obviously apply that over time. You have good days and bad days, but as long as the good outweigh the bad, you're on the right track.
See, I find that in the cycles of the year, and I don't know the science behind this, but it probably has something to do with the sun and the amount of sunlight and energy that we're physically getting from it.
Yep.
But I find, especially say February to March, I'm literally at the end, like the end of my energetic level. Then summer starts coming in, or spring starts coming in. I feel my energy levels rising again. You start get excited. You you plan more, you achieve more, you work harder, you do more, you socialise more, etc., etc., etc. That works all the way around to the peak, which is probably September, October time. And then obviously you come into the Christmas period where you've got that bit of delight from, so you have like a start getting a lull in November, but I think, the Christmas holidays always helps peak that forward to a point where you come back in December and it's like, come back in January, I can physically feel my energy levels are rock bottom again, and you got to start again to really, I think my point is in the midsummer, I don't think about motivation at all. It is just there.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? I just get up, done, bang, 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 on it. Whereas January, February comes, and I'm really having to every single day make sure I push the positive mental affirmations into the brain to think that get up, you got to do it. You got to keep pushing forward. And as I say, I'm sure that's something to do with the cycle of the sun, but it's always a cycle. And I only noticed it sort of 3 years ago, which has massively helped me because I know it's coming, so I can start preparing myself for when it happens. In terms of making sure I'm not eating shit. Do you know what I mean? That's a big thing.
Usually,
make sure you're exercising enough, and especially in the darker periods, make sure I get enough sleep. I always find, I don't know if it's the same with everybody else, but I feel like I don't need as much sleep in the summer because you stay up till 9, 10, 11 o'clock because the sun's out, isn't it? And I don't know if the science behind it, as I say, but maybe you just get that extra energy from the sun.
You 100% do. Vitamin D from the sun is a very underappreciated, undervalued. It's not even a vitamin; it's a fucking hormone that it produces. It kickstarts everything with your serotonin, your tryptophan, your norepinephrine, everything in your body. That even just dopamine release. The sun itself naturally makes you feel better.
When you wake up in the morning and it's already sunny.
Oh, wonderful!
I tend to wake up between 5:30 every day, and especially during the winter, I'm getting up and it doesn't get light till 8 o'clock.
It's hard,
and it's like you got 2.5 hours in the morning where it is dark. And we're getting to the point now. I think it's light at about 6:15. But soon, it's going to be like 4:30. So when I wake up, the sun's going to be there, and it's just so much easier to get up and jump out of bed and just get to what you got to do.
See, I don't see for that particular reason. I don't like blackout curtains because it means I can't see the sun in the morning. So I've got a blind, which kind of just it filters it through, which is quite nice. But there was time in my old house where I would deliberately leave the curtains open because then the sun would wake me up, and I was just like, "That's how you do it. That's how you wake up."
Well, I suppose going back to the sort of tribal times, we would have had to be up, I guess, when the sun came up, would we?
Oh, depending where you are as well. I mean, like with that's very interesting. That
or does it go back to more the agrarian age where we
big word?
It's like when we started farming.
Yeah. I got you. Agriculture.
So so you'd have to get up ready to either sow or I don't know anything about farming. As you can probably tell.
You're sowing, are you?
Yeah, exactly. So either sow or harvest or whenever they do it. I guess they reap. Do they sow at the beginning of spring and then
for any farmers
at the end?
Any farmers that are listening, we're very sorry.
Yeah. As you can tell, the massive detriment to supermarkets in our lives is we've got no idea how food is produced.
Of course we bloody don't. It's taken away from us.
What I've got an idea is it turns up at the supermarket, it gets unloaded onto the shelves, and I pick it up. That's about it.
Is that not how it works?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it was, yeah. But it's very interesting. I was going to say something about it depends where you have to be in the world, but that's a separate point. I think, when did it happen that we got those positive reinforcements from seeing the sun?
I think what must have been forever.
Yeah, but do other animals have that? Do other animals get a dopamine release from seeing the sun? Because we get, from where we are in this country, the sun gives us vitamin D, but only in summer because it's so weak. It's like if you're in Greece or close to the equator, you get that more the year round, so you have a better immune system by being closer to the equator because you see the sun more, which again is fascinating. So if you give anyone who was born there or has heritage from there, they are naturally vitamin D deficient because whatever sun they get
when they move to the UK,
for example, whatever sun they do get from here, even in summer, is nowhere near close enough to what they are genetically have a propensity for, which is very interesting.
But then we're probably used to it, so it doesn't affect us as much, or
yeah. Well, I've got like half of that in me, so I've got half either way. So, and
do you tend to get ill?
Not really. No. So I've probably got the English genes taking control there.
But does that have? I find I would like to look into the science on this as well, but I've said it a number of times to people is I can't afford to be ill, and it's more of like a statement to myself. It's like you can't be ill because you've got stuff to do.
Sheer willpower.
Willpower. Yeah, I can't be ill. I need to be on point. Now, don't get me wrong. I had COVID, like most people did.
Yeah.
It was just it was a flu. It wasn't great, but I had it for 2 days. Felt pretty shit, to be fair. But after that, I got over it, and then I was locked in the house for 8 days. Thank you.
Whereas now you can get it and do what you want.
But other than that, I don't tend to get ill, and I don't know if that's because physically or mentally I mentally don't allow the physicality in my body to exert that, or is it to do with the way I treat my body in terms of exercising, drinking lots of water, eating as healthily as I can, which I'm not going to sit here and tell you I eat the healthiest. But I don't tend to eat that much shit.
Yeah, mate, that Domino's the other day was foul.
It was so good. I will say, it's the first Domino's I've had in probably 3 years.
That would explain the reaction. Makes sense.
And it was
your body's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. The gas I had afterwards was not
Jesus Christ. I thought skunks were bad.
But it tasted good going in.
Oh, yeah, Domino's is good shit, mate.
But, yeah, it would be interesting to look into the science on that. Because, as I say, I can't afford to be ill, so...
Yeah, and it's proven that what you believe comes to pass. Yeah.
Your thoughts physically create your reality, don't they?
There's one that I need to look into properly and actually conduct experiments on, which is that people who mentally envisioned like pull-ups versus people who
I
didn't.
was reading this the other day, which I thought was absolutely mental.
Yeah, I remember hearing about this years ago.
And
I was
I've
like,
actually
nah.
started trying to incorporate it.
Yeah.
It's when I can't go to the gym.
But when I get bored, I just do different weight exercises in my head.
So explain to the people.
So what happens is they didn't. They wanted to see if the power of the mind could actually have a physical response on the body in regards to muscular development. So what they did is they did experiment with a quite good sample size. Half of the participants were they were given a very specific instruction and a very specific words they had to read out in their heads and say to themselves, of like, and envisioning themselves doing pull-ups and I'm going to do, but like down to the detail, like, okay, I'm going to breathe out all the way up and in all the way down, and you're like, oh, I'm going to rest, and my hands are going to hurt a little bit, and it's like, okay, cool, so breathe, get breathing back in control, and so on and so on. And the other people were just going to envision nothing. Beyond that, they changed absolutely nothing.
Plus, they had a third group that were actually physically doing
exercising. Yeah, so they found that the people who did the envisioning grew the same as the people who did the actual workout.
Was it the same? Or was it about 80%?
For most of the participants, it was about the same.
Was it? Okay, brilliant. Which is mad.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So obviously the ones who didn't envision anything and didn't do anything, nothing happened, as you would expect. But to get it pretty, I think it was you might be right actually by 80%, but it was to get pretty much the same result from physically doing nothing is wild.
Yeah. Which, that's what I was sort of blown away by. It's like,
it's just envisioning.
When you can't get to the gym, you're already pissed off and you're thinking, what do I do? And now I just do that. I think, right, let's not physically,
mentally,
but sit there physically and mentally construct that image in my mind of being there and actually doing the exercises.
So weird, so strange how that works.
It just shows, as you say, the power of the mind is, well, we barely know anything about it, and the the extent to the reach that it has and the power. But again, from my own experience, there's various different things like that I've sort of come into contact with, which you think, Jesus, like, mindset. It all starts with a mindset, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. If you can create that thought or that pattern or that cycle that is going to keep pushing you forward and through things, without sounding too cringy, you can pretty much achieve whatever you like. Or was it David Goggins? He's an absolute gangster.
Goggins quote, I was going to text you, and then I thought, I was going to tell you here.
Go
on. Would you accept the premise that most people are quite weak right now?
Yes, 100%.
All the more fertile ground for us to dominate.
Yeah, no, I did. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, if you guys aren't going to step up, that's fine. I'm just going to fucking step in.
Yeah, he says
makes it easier for me.
He says it's so easy to be strong because everyone's weak. I was like, David, yes.
I think back in the day where
so good.
Like stoic masculinity was like all we had.
It was the norm, yeah.
It was all we had. It was much harder to put yourself in that position.
Because you're surrounded by fucking barbarians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what was it? I think. So I was reading the other day now, and I guess this is because most people don't work out at all. That I think it's if you can bench press your body weight 1.5 times your body weight squats, and if you can deadlift twice your body weight, you're like 1% of all the people in the world.
Makes a lot of sense. Which
is mad, and you think, well, that seems like such a small number. But I suppose if you take it over 8 billion people, 1%, what's that, like 800 million?
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
So it's still quite a lot of people. But
well, I mean, if you're putting that, that's a not insignificant amount of weight for all of those exercises. Like, it's not insane, but that's still a fair amount of weight. If we would both say we're both 80 kilos.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much. I'm between 79 and 81 every time I weigh myself.
Yeah, 83. Let's say if we're 80 kilos, if you're...
That's not made me pleased because I'm taller than you, so I should be heavier.
Yeah, sorry, I've got a bit more around the middle than you. If you were saying that you're... what was it? was it bench pressing 80.
So you bench your body weight.
Yeah, but if you're bench pressing 80, that's a strong number.
Yeah.
If you're squatting 140, no, 120, strong number.
Yeah.
And if you're squatting, and if you're deadlifting 160, again, strong number.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing to be sniffed at.
Yeah.
That's strong as shit.
Well, yeah. So when I finally hit that number, I was quite impressed with myself because not long ago I wasn't lifting anything. Do you know what I mean? I was in the gym, fucking deadlifting 40 kilos because my back was so weak.
Well, that's doubly impressive. Yeah.
These 5 foot nothing women fucking doing 80, and I'm like, that's real embarrassing.
It's easier to deadlift if you're shorter.
Is it? Well, because it's
close to the ground.
There's a mass work on that. I suppose everything's in proportion. That sounds like bollocks to me.
Just wanted to say it, see what you did.
Yeah. It sounded good at first, though.
Thanks, man.
No,
like you've been like, what? I would be very interested. See, for me, I'm not an advocate of like heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just an advocate of moving. The weight doesn't matter. I'd be very interested to know what the equivalent would be for body weight for a calisthenic benchmark. I wonder what that would be.
Well, see, I try and mix it up, sort of both ways. I'm not really out there to be like a bodybuilder to get absolutely huge, like these strong men. I just like to be toned and to look
and actually strong. Yeah,
toned and look strong. Not necessarily look strong, but just be strong. Do you know what I mean? So I can achieve whatever I need to achieve. But so I try and mix it up. Like I actually prefer doing body weight stuff. It's only I probably started doing weights 18 months ago, and then it's only in the last sort of 6 months where I've really started ramping it up to to get to the higher levels, which don't get me wrong, I've actually really enjoyed, because same thing as one thing I found with body weights is like you can do, unless you do like stupid numbers, it doesn't ever really feel that impressive.
It's you're going to reach a plateau quicker. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you're butting like 50 press ups, it's like, well, it's only like 50 press ups, isn't it? It's like, it doesn't.
Nothing to be sniffed at.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't long ago where I could barely do 20 press ups off the bat. But my point being is, when you're lifting your body weight or heavier, it really feels like, fuck, this is heavier than I am. Do you know what I mean? So that's pretty good. Which I suppose with press ups, you're technically lifting. It's
about 80% of your body you're lifting. 80%
of your body weight.
Yeah. So and obviously you can do variants on that. So if you do a incline press up, then you can shift more of your weight, so you are taking more.
Be interesting to know what the percentage of that is.
You can get it. Obviously, a handstand push up is maximum, is like 100% of your body weight.
But then also,
that's then shoulder. So
that's what I mean. Surely it's completely different muscles being used.
Yeah, different from there. So yeah, you can't. The difference you get from a calisthenic versus a bench press, granted, they are both still compound exercises, but the difference you get is that you are using more of like your whole body, as opposed to, so you're going to be compounding everything, as opposed to with bench press, you're compounding waist up.
Yeah. So
with bench press, you'll do abs, obliques, deltoids, biceps, not really biceps, triceps, pectorals, all that sort of stuff. But then if you're doing a push-up, depending on feet placement, you're then doing quads, lower back, you're doing your all the abductors, stuff like that, just from the placement of it, because you are using the whole thing as your body weight that way. What was a very interesting one is that pull-ups is an ab workout.
Well, yeah, so I found out the hard way when I was doing pull-ups about 6 weeks ago, and no warm-up. I just thought, let's just start doing pull-ups.
Fucking idiot.
And literally the first thing I did is like I fucking ripped my abs, and obviously that was me fucked.
Well, there you go. My friend, it's past.
Time to go.
Time to go.
Right. That's the end. Been a pleasure, Matt, as always.
As always, my friend. That was very good. We covered a lot of ground there.
Thank you for joining us. As again, we're here just chatting shit, various different various different things we spoke about today.
Fuck yeah.
But it was good fun. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for listening.
We'll see you next week.